A ring made in 1923 has already outlived the Great Depression, a world war, and a century of daily wear on someone's hand. The piece in the mall case across town has survived a forklift ride from a warehouse in Guangzhou. The industry has spent decades teaching you that new means better, cleaner, safer, more refined. What it never says out loud is that new means one other thing. New means you absorb the full retail markup the second the box leaves the counter. There is an entire category of jewelry where that markup has already been paid. Someone else took the hit decades ago and walked away. What is left is the metal, the stones, and the work, priced much closer to what the piece is actually worth. Today, we are looking at why vintage and estate jewelry quietly outperforms almost everything new sitting beside it, where the real bargains hide in plain sight, and the honest risks no salesperson will mention before you hand over your card. Start with the word game, because the industry has built its entire PE-owned section on three terms most buyers cannot tell apart: antique, vintage, estate. They get used interchangeably on tags and websites, and the difference can move the price of a piece by thousands of dollars. Antique is a hard line, at least 100 years old. Real history, genuinely scarce, and priced for it. Vintage is the messy middle, generally treated as anything roughly 20 to 100 years old. A brooch from the 40s qualifies. A pendant from 2001 barely scrapes in. Estate is where the trick lives. It sounds like inheritance. It sounds like a manor house and an English garden. What it actually means is one thing: previously owned. Earrings sold 3 months ago and traded back last week are estate jewelry. A bracelet worn once at a wedding and resold the next morning is estate jewelry. The word tells you nothing about age, nothing about quality, and nothing about craft. It tells you the piece has had at least one owner. Stores lean on it because it sounds like heritage. Read it as secondhand, and you are already ahead of 9 out of 10 buyers in the same shop. Now the money, which is where this story actually turns. A new piece in a mall case is marked up 3 to 8 times above what the materials and labor cost to produce. The diamond, the gold, the manufacturing, the certification, all of it adds up to a fraction of the sticker price. The rest is rent, advertising, sales commission, the showroom lighting engineered to make stones look bigger, and the brand name etched into the clasp. The moment you cross the threshold of that store, the markup evaporates. The piece is now worth what the next buyer will pay for it, which tends to be materials value plus a small premium for design. The first owner of any piece of jewelry pays for the entire marketing apparatus. Every owner after that does not. That is the central financial argument for buying vintage in a single sentence. The markup was already paid, decades ago, by someone whose name you will never know. By the time the piece reaches you, it has been quietly repriced based on what it actually is. A signed 40s gold bracelet at an estate counter often sells for less than a brand new piece of similar weight in the case across the aisle, and the older one carries hand finishing the new one cannot reproduce at the price. Quality is the second half of the argument, and the more surprising half. Retail trains you to assume newer is more refined. Modern alloys, modern machinery, modern polish. In practice, the opposite is often true. Older jewelry was made in an era when labor was cheap and material was expensive. A jeweler in 1910 could spend 3 days hand engraving a band because his time cost less than the gold he was carving. That ratio is flipped today. Labor is the single most expensive part of any piece, which is why mass-produced jewelry gets cast in a mold, polished by a machine, and finished in minutes. The detail work that defined older pieces, the fine engraving, Filigree so delicate it reads like lace. Mill-grain edges set one tiny bead at a time. Simply does not exist at any reasonable price point in new mall jewelry. And there is a second filter most buyers never think about. Survival. Bad jewelry does not last 50 years. Thin gold wears through. Cheap settings fail. Glued stones fall out. The vintage piece in front of you has already passed a test. The brand new one has not even started. If a ring from 1935 is still intact, with its stones still tight and its shank still true, it was built well to begin with. The market filters out the junk on its own. What reaches the present is, by definition, the stuff that was worth keeping. To buy vintage with confidence, learn the eras, because each one carries its own look, its own materials, and its own quiet bargains. Victorian, the second half of the 1800s, is heavy and sentimental. Yellow gold, seed pearls, garnets, dark enamel. Mourning jewelry comes from this era, alongside some of the most sculptural designs ever made. Art Nouveau, around the turn of the 20th century, is flowing curves and dragonflies, female faces in profile, enameling pushed to artistic extremes. Rare, delicate, and a real piece in good condition is a museum object you can put on. Edwardian, the years just before the First World War, brought platinum into fashion. The work is airy and lacy. White diamonds set into platinum so fine it looks almost weightless. Then comes the era almost everyone recognizes without being able to name it. Art Deco, the 20s and 30s. Sharp geometry, bold contrast, calibrated colored stones cut to fit precise patterns, and a confidence in design the modern industry has been quietly imitating ever since. It is the most desired and most counterfeited vintage style on the market for exactly that reason. Retro, the 40s, is unmistakable once you see it. Big, bold, rose gold and yellow gold, oversized cocktail rings, tank track bracelets that look almost industrial because wartime metal rationing forced pieces to do more with less. Mid-century, the 50s and 60s, is cleaner and sleeker, and where modern engagement ring design really took shape. Each era is a different conversation. The right one for you is the one that already looks like the way you live. Now for the part most vintage videos never reach. The hidden jackpots. The first is gold purity. A huge share of the gold on display in chain stores today is 10 carat, 41.7% pure. The rest is alloy. It is durable, cheap to manufacture, and it lets brands sell yellow gold pieces at attractive price points without touching their margins. Vintage gold runs higher. 14 carat is common. 18 carat shows up far more often in older pieces than in new mall cases. European work frequently runs 22 carat. Higher gold content means richer color, better weight in the hand, and more actual gold by mass in the piece you are buying. Sometimes the vintage ring next to a brand new 10 carat band carries nearly twice the gold for a similar number on the tag. The second jackpot is older diamond cuts. Modern brilliant cuts are engineered for maximum sparkle under bright showroom lighting, dazzling under spotlights, almost glassy in candlelight. Older cuts, the old mine cut and the old European cut, were shaped before electric lighting existed. They were designed to glow in lamplight and firelight. The facets are larger and less perfectly symmetrical, the silhouette slightly chunkier. They throw a softer, warmer, almost honey-colored fire that no modern stone reproduces. And because the market is obsessed with modern brilliance, these older cuts often sell for less per carat than a new stone of identical weight. You are not buying a worse diamond. You are buying a different aesthetic, and one many jewelers privately consider more romantic than anything currently on the floor. Now the part where honesty matters more than enthusiasm, because vintage has real risks, and any channel that skips them is selling you a fantasy. First risk: documentation. New jewelry arrives with paperwork. The diamond has a certificate. The metal has a stamp. The seller has a return policy. Vintage often arrives with nothing. Stones are uncertified. The story attached to the piece may be true, or it may be wishful thinking passed down at a counter. You buy it as it appears, and a money-back guarantee is rare. Second risk: repairs and resizing. A plain modern band sizes up or down without drama. An ornate Edwardian ring with hand engraving running across the entire shank does not. Resizing can mean cutting through the pattern, weakening the structure, or losing detail that cannot be recreated. Some pieces simply cannot be altered without ruining what makes them valuable, and the cost of repairing intricate vintage work shocks a lot of first-time buyers because the skill is rare and the materials are old. Third risk: prongs. The prongs holding a stone in place have a working lifespan. On a ring worn daily for 60 or 80 years, those prongs are tired. They may look fine and be one knock away from letting the stone go. Any vintage piece with a serious center stone needs to be inspected under magnification, and very often re-tipped or fully re-pronged before it is safe to wear. Treat that as part of the purchase, not an optional extra. Fourth risk: fakes and switches. A booming market for deco-style pieces means a booming market for new work deliberately aged to look old. There are also unfortunate cases of original stones being swapped for lower-grade ones somewhere along the chain of ownership. Rare in established estate businesses, more common in unmarked sources. Provenance matters. Fifth risk, and the one nobody likes to mention: hygiene and condition. Old earrings have been worn by other people, sometimes for decades. Old rings have lived on hands that lived through 90 years of life. Proper cleaning, and in the case of pierced earrings, proper sterilization before wear, is basic and non-negotiable. None of these are deal breakers. They are reasons to buy carefully, not reasons to default to new. If this is the breakdown you wish someone had given you before your last jewelry purchase, hit subscribe, because the next part, where you actually buy this stuff, is where most people lose their money or save it. Where you buy matters as much as what you buy. The worst place to start is exactly where most people do. The anonymous antique mall with a glass case in the corner, no jeweler on staff, and a handwritten tag that reads, "Estate Diamond Ring." There is nobody to test the stone, nobody to verify the gold, and nobody to take responsibility if the ring turns out to be silver-plated and the diamond turns out to be foiled paste. Auction houses are better, but demand homework. The reputable ones publish detailed condition reports, and the better the report, the more you can trust what you are bidding on. Online resale platforms have improved enormously over the last decade. The respected ones authenticate before listing, photograph in detail, and offer return windows. Use them as a starting point, not a final answer. The best place to buy vintage, and the place this channel keeps coming back to, is the estate section at an independent local jeweler. The kind of shop where the person who buys the inventory also sits at the bench and repairs it. When that jeweler hands you a ring across the counter, they can put a loop in your hand, point out the hallmarks, weigh the piece on a scale you can read, test the gold while you watch, and check the prongs under magnification before you commit. They can tell you what era the piece is from, what re-tipping will cost, and whether the stone is what the previous owner claimed. That relationship is what protects your money. A piece of jewelry that has already survived a century deserves to be sold by someone who actually understands what they are holding. So here is the larger picture, the one the industry would prefer you never assemble. Everything this channel has warned you about, the inflated markups, the disposable plating, the brand tax stamped onto a clasp, the diamonds priced for marketing rather than rarity. All of it collapses the moment you step out of the new section and into the estate case. Vintage is not nostalgia. It is not a style preference. It is the most direct route to buying what jewelry actually is: metal and stones and human work, at a price close to what those things are worth. A ring that has already been on a hand for 50 years has answered every question the new piece beside it is only just starting to ask. Will the gold hold? Will the setting survive? Will the design still feel right in a decade? The vintage piece has already answered yes. The new piece is asking you to trust the marketing. So buy carefully, inspect every piece, insist on a jeweler who will check it in front of you. And remember the one rule the industry will never put on a billboard: the retail markup only happens once. After that, the piece belongs to whoever is smart enough to see what it really is. If this changed how you look at the case at your local jeweler, tap the like button and subscribe to Jewel Verdict for more honest breakdowns. Drop a comment with the oldest piece of jewelry you own, where you found it, and what it taught you. The best discoveries on this channel still come straight from the people watching it. Spend smarter. See you in the next one.